Yo guys, you know what it is. We're just talking about what's inside the Vatican archives that day, and let's just find out what's actually inside the archive.
But what exactly are the Vatican archives? And what kind of items are stored there? In recent years, the Vatican has granted exclusive access to researchers, finally revealing the contents of history's most legendary archive. And in this video, I want to show you what they found. The Apostolic Archive is located within Vatican City, the world's smallest sovereign state. It lies adjacent to the Vatican Library, a short walk from the Sistine Chapel and the magnificent St. Peter's Basilica. Today, most of the archive is kept in a purpose-built subterranean facility.
A lot of people say there's information about time machines and extraterrestrial information. That's not the case. The true information they're actually hiding is about the old world, and the true history that contradicts our current history. Those are the information they're actually hiding, not like extraterrestrials and UFOs and shit. Whenever we talk about aliens and shit, like, you're a retard if you believe in those kinds of shit.
It's a sprawling maze of storage rooms spread across 2 underground levels. Inside, there are hundreds and thousands of individual items. In fact, if you lined up the shelves end to end, they'd stretch over 53 miles. That's roughly the distance from London to Oxford. While no floor plan exists to the public, we do know that at the centre is a highly restricted area known as the bunker, a climate-controlled vault that safeguards the archive's most delicate possessions. As a whole, it's a warren of storage rooms, a network of shelves that seem to go on endlessly. And for much of its history, access to this exclusive collection was only reserved to inner members of the church itself. Due to the secretive nature of the Vatican archives, many have speculated about what might be hidden there. A quick online search turns up no shortage of claims, from forbidden Christian documents to evidence of extraterrestrial life. These claims are unverified, and some are considered to be highly dubious. But one of the most bizarre stories about the Vatican archives,
Yeah, if you're still talking about UFOs and shit, bro, you're not smart, bro.
Doesn't come from conspiracy theories. Instead, it comes from within the church itself. This tale originates from Father Pellegrino Ernetti, a Benedictine monk and former physicist, who claimed to have built a device known as the chronovisor. This machine was a television that allegedly allowed users to witness historical events as if they were happening live. In other words, a time-traveling television. Ernetti said he used the chronovisor to view scenes from ancient history and confirm events as described in the Bible. Along with the article was this supposed photograph of
I think this thing got exposed as a scam, like, whatsoever. Like, he was actually lying and shit. Like, I'm not sure, like, but definitely there's some information about the old world, of the secret, advanced technology of the ancient civilization. Definitely there are secrets about that, but not this time machine shit, bro. I think that this time machine got proven like to be like a forgery or a scam.
Jesus and his disciples. Of course, Ernetti's outlandish claims drew widespread skepticism. Such a device is outside the bounds of accepted physics, and the image of Jesus bears a striking resemblance to this.
No way, this is somebody actually witnessed the event, bro. Anybody who says that, it's probably like a, or a cover up or some sort of things.
Widely circulated Christian postcard. Despite this, Ernetti stood by his claims of the chronovisor, insisting that the Vatican had hidden the chronovisor to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. According to his testimony, the machine was locked away deep within the Vatican archives.
But yeah, I believe in a lot of conspiracy theories, but this chronovisor shit's too far. Any witness of the event was crucifixion, bro. Bullshit, bro. Like, I'm calling bluff on that.
Never to be seen again. If you're thinking this sounds like science fiction, well, you're not alone. Skeptics believe it to be from the imagination of Ernetti himself. In any case, he continued to defend the chronovisor's existence, even until his death.
There's a lot of weird shit in the Vatican, like, I'm doing a separate video on that, like, later on. There's some weird shit on the Vatican, but even some Epstein level shit on the Vatican, but a time machine's not it.
1994. Over the years, rumours surrounding the Vatican archives have gained a lot of traction, and to be honest, I can understand why. But I think a lot of these rumours originate from the name of the archives themselves. Let me explain. For much of its history, the collection was known in English as the Vatican Secret Archive. I mean, using the word secret is bound to attract speculation. All that changed in 2019, when the late Pope Francis renamed it to Vatican Apostolic Archive. According to his papal letter, it was done in an effort to dispel the reputation that the church was hiding something. Name change or not, what a lot of people may not know is that the
Bullshit, bro. If there actually like certain important information about, old world technology and advanced civilization technology and the things that actually happened in the past, would you believe that they would actually reveal to that public? Let them study? Never, bro. Like, whatever the public has access to the archives are things that not insignificant whatsoever.
archive is actually open to visit, and it has been for more than 100 years. At the end of the 19th century, Pope Leo XIII opened up parts of the archives to historians. For the first time, people from outside the church could visit the collection. If you want to visit, well, you can, provided you fulfill these strict requirements: a master's degree in a relevant field, a letter of recommendation from a professor or university, and a clear description of the specific document you want to view. I was curious, so I made
Yeah, that's valid, but like, that's not gonna be any significant information.
application of my own, using an official form from the archive's own website. However, after only 20 minutes, my application was sadly rejected. For lucky applicants who get accepted and successfully pass the interview process, you'll be granted temporary access to the Vatican archives. So
I'm
let's
pretty sure they do like a thorough background check too. Like,
pretend that we made it inside. Congratulations! Now, where's the time machine?
if you're like making conspiracy videos, you think they're gonna give access to the Vatican archives?
Well, the true answer may surprise you, and it's here we turn to next. Walking through the Vatican archives, you are surrounded by rows and rows of shelves, each housing many thousands of items. So, let's take a look at some of them. The reality of the Vatican archives is quite different from the movies. Firstly, there are no booby traps. Looking at you, Tom Hanks. What Angels and Demons does get right is that the Vatican archives contain official records of the Holy See, the central governing body of the Catholic Church. It's essentially a massive warehouse full of papal bureaucracy. Broadly speaking, the archive's contents fall into four main categories: papal letters, private correspondences from the popes, state papers, documents relating to the functioning of the Vatican City, minutes from church councils and trials, and finally, a vast collection
Even though a lot of things is boring, it would be kind of pretty amazing, to learn about the history and of everything.
simply labelled miscellaneous. While a lot of this might sound like paperwork, look closer and you'll discover secrets that have been kept away for centuries. So, what I have here is a selection of items from the Vatican archives. The hidden fate of the Knights Templar. Our first item relates to one of the most powerful organisations of the medieval world, the Knights Templar. The Templars were a military order founded after the First Crusade, a series of Christian wars called to recapture the Holy Land. It was during these bloody years that the Order of the Templars was formed. Originally, they sought to protect Christian pilgrims, but over time, they evolved into one of the most powerful institutions in medieval Europe. But with all that power came enemies. In 1307, King Philip IV of France launched an inquisition against the Templars, accusing them of
Yeah, they accuse them of doing Templars. They're pretty much doing witchcraft and shit, bro. And they like,
heresy and devil worship.
there's a lot of incidents of Templars doing devil worship. Like, that's why the incident Friday the 13th, because Friday the 13th is the date when Templars, like, betray the king whatsoever. Like, I read about that somewhere.
What followed was the arrest of
That's why Friday the 13th is kind of like an unlucky day whatsoever. Like,
thousands of Templars, many of whom were forced to confess false crimes. Even their leader, the Grand Master Jacques de Molay, was eventually burnt at the stake in
but a lot of people say it was some kind of like a cover up, and the Templars were actually innocent. Like, this Molay dude. It was like a whole injustice done to them.
1314. For centuries, the accepted story was that this Inquisition was supported by the Church. But
Who knows if the story is actually right or wrong? Like, these people may be hiding anything, bro. Like, we can never trust our history whatsoever.
in 2001, all that changed. Deep within the Vatican archives, researchers uncovered a long-lost document known as the Chinon Parchment. It details a secret investigation into the Templars by the Church, one that found them to be innocent of the charges levied against them. In fact, even Pope Clement V absolved the order and quietly forgave the Templars in secret. However, he never made his pardon public. Despite the Templars being secretly forgiven, they were still wiped out.
Damn, there's a lot of blood on, you know, the Vatican organization and the Catholic Church, bro.
Why? Well, politics. The Chinon Parchment reveals a power struggle between the Pope and King Philip IV. You see, Philip owed the Templars a massive amount of debt. By dismantling the order, he could conveniently erase his financial burden. It appears that the king strong-armed the Pope into complying with his orders. Had the Pope's forgiveness been made public, then the order might have survived to this day. But instead, the document was filed away, buried in the archives for centuries. The Trial of Galileo. Among the most important documents housed in the Vatican archives are the original records from the infamous Trial of Galileo. Galileo Galilei is considered one of astronomy's greatest minds, having studied the movement.
This is one of the the central argument atheists used, to attack the church. Oh, you guys burned up Galileo and shit.
Of the planets, he defended heliocentrism, the idea that the Earth revolves around the sun. But at the time,
First of all, who knows this story is actually true or not? Like, we cannot even trust this claim.
the Church upheld the doctrine of geocentrism, the belief that the Earth was fixed at the centre of the universe. And so, in 1633, Galileo stood before a church inquisition, having been accused of heresy. These precious documents outline the proceedings of Galileo's trial, including his own handwritten defense, in which he desperately argues that his scientific views do not contradict the Christian faith. However, he was unsuccessful. Under pressure, he was forced into a plea bargain. In exchange for his life, Galileo formally withdrew his support for heliocentrism. He spent the remaining 9 years of his life under house arrest and never lived to see his scientific observations become widely accepted. It wasn't until the modern era that the church formally acknowledged its mistake, pardoning Galileo.
I know there's some kind of injustice to Galileo, but who knows actually if the Galileo story is true? Like, and I know that, I'm not the one guy stressing NASA and shit, bro. There's a lot of, like, crazy stuff going on there. Like, those who know the truth actually know the truth, what the world truly is, but who knows if this story is actually true or not.
And recognizing his contribution to astronomy. Today, the church has now embraced science. In fact, the Vatican now operates its own telescope in southeastern Arizona in the United States. The Passarola. The deeper we go into the
You know what's also crazy? The Vatican has like a telescope named Lucifer. Like, it's crazy.
Vatican archives, the clearer it becomes that it's very different to the one we see in pop culture. Rather than being a Christian Area 51, instead it's a historian's playground. Housed here are mostly documents, but primary sources from history as it unfolds. And while there might not be any time-travelling television, there is still some sci-fi to be found. Hidden within the archives is a concept for a flying machine known as the Passarola, drafted by a Portuguese priest, Bartolomeu de Gusmão. These unusual drawings depict an aircraft shaped like a bird, with a large central sail flanked by wings on either.
Damn, that shit look fine, bro. That I think this is some kind of like a old world technology they're hiding. Like, there has to be something like that.
Of course, the Passarola never got off the ground, and it's one of thousands of fantasy aircraft that predate the
Some kind of like anti-gravity device whatsoever.
era of flight. I have to give it some credit though. It is rather inventive. It looks like the church thought so too, and so kept hold of these blueprints, just for safekeeping. Among the most fascinating treasures from the Vatican archives,
I think that was actually some kind of like a validity to it. The most bizarre things are the ones that's actually true.
are letters sent to the church by historical figures. One of them is from history's most celebrated artist, Michelangelo, who famously designed several of the Vatican's landmarks, from the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel to St. Peter's Basilica. Although this letter is far less glamorous. It's about a payment dispute. According to Michelangelo, the workers in the Vatican had not been paid for 3 months and were threatening to walk off the job. One section reads, "We can't go on like this anymore." The
The Vatican's notorious for financial corruption. Like, that's one thing they actually do.
Communication
That's the
of
main
Martin
thing.
Luther. As you may know, Christianity is not a single unified religion. Today, it is divided into a number of denominations. One major split is between Catholicism and Protestantism, and this next document reveals the very moment that split began. It's a papal bull signed by Pope Leo X, a formal decree that officially excommunicated Martin Luther. Martin Luther was a monk and theologian, but beginning in 1517, he became a fierce opponent of the church and criticised what he saw as corruption. Over time, a reform movement developed around him and spread like wildfire across Northern Europe. This document contains the church's response to the crisis. Luther was banned from preaching and participating in the sacraments. In effect, he was cast out forever. Only one official document of this excommunication letter exists today. A second was sent to Luther himself, although he famously burnt it in a public protest. At the time, no one could have predicted the full significance of this document. It marked the first formal break between Catholicism and Protestantism and triggered the Reformation. Soon, Christianity would begin to fragment across Europe, just like in the Kingdom of England, where Henry VIII appealed to the Pope for an annulment of his marriage to Catherine of Aragon. In fact, the archives contain this letter too, adorned with 81 seals from English noblemen. The Pope, of course, rejected King Henry's request, and so he promptly broke away from the Catholic Church and created the Church of England, placing himself at the head. The Vatican Apostolic Archive.
Yeah. Imagine lengths you would actually go to be king, like.
Is one of the most impressive collections of historical data in the world. While it might not contain any earth-shattering revelations plucked from a Dan Brown novel, it's still a remarkable collection in its own.
Protestant doesn't even make sense. Like, how does sola scriptura, even decide the canon of the Bible? Like, how does scripture alone decide the canon of the Bible? Like, a lot of things Protestantism doesn't even make sense.
Right. It's an extraordinary archive of documents, some of which lie at the very epicenter of world history. Despite what you might have expected, the Vatican archives are not completely closed off. In recent years, there has been a greater trend towards transparency, and yet a sense of mystery still pervades the archive.
Bro, really? Transparency? You think they're gonna actually, like, give all the information, the hidden information, to the general public? Fuck no, bro. Like,
archives today. There remains one problem. Visitors wanting to access the archives must request to view specific documents in advance. This raises a paradox.
Never
How
trust
can
the
you
authority,
request a
bro.
document if you aren't even aware of its existence? Perhaps then there are still items tucked away in the Vatican archives that still remain off limits. One can only wonder.
yo, so that's about it. We're doing a separate video on a lot of demonic elements on Vatican, so like and sub.